Hello, hello.
Well, we're all here. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Richard Weil, and I'm the CEO and owner of National Restaurant Consultants. We welcome you in again for our helpful moment number 38. Joined, as always, by the president of Top Line Management and Cafe Fuel, Mr. Brian Devine. And today we have an extremely special guest here today. I'm thrilled and we're honored to have Sonia Riggs, the president and CEO of the Colorado Restaurant Association. I wanted to take just a couple quick seconds to not only thank Sonia for her work and the Restaurant Association, but herself personally and her leadership through these most difficult weeks that we've encountered in the restaurant and hospitality industry. Sonia has been highly regarded, not just here in Colorado, but nationally through the National Restaurant Association. Her unrelenting and untiring efforts with her and the CRA staff has been amazing. While, yes, I'm a past chairman of the board of the Restaurant Association, very proud to be, I'm certainly thrilled with what Sonia's brought to the table. And Sonia, from the bottom of everyone in the hospitality industry, we thank you for all that you've been doing. So thank you, Sonia.
Well, thank you. But I've got to say it's been a team effort. I'm so lucky to have such an amazing team right now that's really been working night and day, 7 days a week to help restaurants however we can. So I can't take all the credit. I've got a lot of help, but I appreciate that.
It's true. A great group. So Sonia, what I would like to see, we kind of maybe cover a couple topics here, and one of them would be certainly what the PP is doing in regards to what the Restaurant Association, both locally in Colorado and nationally, are trying to do to maybe improve upon that legislation, and that what the new standard of care components are looking like as we move forward into reopening restaurants across the country. So here in Colorado, of course. So Sonia, would you please?
Well, first, let me start by saying in a survey that we did last month, out of those that we had surveyed, only 15% of restaurants had actually received PPP funding at the time. So that's a problem of itself, and only 2% of restaurants who had applied for EIDL loans had received them. So, restaurants are 10% of the workforce, and so seeing that so few restaurants are actually receiving money is a big concern as well. However, those who are receiving the PPP loans, they just don't work for the industry. I mean, one of the main requirements was that the clock starts ticking once you receive your PPP loan. The bank has to fund you within 10 days. We had a number of questions, people saying, can we just move our origination date back? No, they were required by law to fund you within 10 days once you got approved. Then you had to bring your payroll to get forgiven. Have to bring your payroll back up to 75% to be able to get that loan forgiveness, which restaurants so desperately need right now because they just don't have the cash flow to keep going. So clearly the PPP has some inherent flaws that just don't really work for this industry. While I understand that the PPP program was meant to bring workers back on, it really doesn't make sense in an industry where, frankly, in Colorado, restaurants are still closed to the public for in-room dining. And once they do reopen, we're looking at 30% capacity. We're hearing maybe 50% capacity at some point, but Mesa County has already opened their restaurants and their limits are 30% capacity. So how does a restaurant survive on that? And how does it really make sense for you to bring your employees back on when there's nothing for them to do? Paying them to stay at home is just turning you into another arm of the unemployment office. So, and again, when restaurants are having to cut their staff significantly, it's difficult for restaurateurs to have the time when they're working around the clock on the front lines, preparing food and trying to keep their business going, to now become another arm of the unemployment office. So they just inherently don't work for restaurants. So there's a number of things that we're doing. We're, of course, supporting the efforts for the National Restaurant Association and lobbying our federal elected officials directly on a number of things. Can they extend the timeline from 8 weeks to 16 weeks and beyond, that you can actually work to build your payroll back up, right? Can they extend the loan repayment period for that part that's not forgiven from 2 years, which frankly, it should be 10 years, which is what Congress actually passed an allowance, and then Treasury made the decision that it was only a 2-year payback period. How does an industry that has a fraction of the revenue that they were receiving pay back those loans in such a short period of time? So that's a big problem. We're also looking to allow, and in fact, I understand that both Senator Bennett and Senator Gardner just signed on to a bill that we'd asked them to sign on to, changing from the 25-75% rule on PPP, meaning that 75% has to go towards payroll costs and 25% can go towards rent and other expenses that were outlined. Make that more of a 50-50 share, because that's what we're hearing is if these restaurateurs can't even pay their bills, how can they, again, bring their staff, their payroll back up to the levels that it was pre-COVID? So we're hoping for some sort of change. So we're trying to push that from all angles. In addition to making changes to the PPP process, we're looking at a restaurant recovery fund that would be specific to restaurants, since they are such impacted in such a unique way that they need special help above and beyond that of some other industries. And that would be a multi-million-dollar recovery fund that only restaurants could apply for. They could prove that they had lost a certain amount of revenue during COVID-19, which would obviously be very easy to do. So we're keeping pushing, I guess, wherever we can to our federal lawmakers in hopes that there's something that they can do. We tried to push with Treasury. We're hearing it's not likely that that's going to get a lot of results, but as you've seen in recent days, even baby steps to baby and small changes to the PPP can still make a difference. So we're pushing from every angle. So that's our federal update. We'll continue to update folks as we know more. Would you like me to go into what we've also been doing at the state and local level?
Please, of course.
Sure. Okay. So, and that's been a huge thing is, number one, we've been working very closely with the state health department, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment. As many people may know, Denver's on one health code and the entire rest of the state's on another health code. So making sure that once those restaurants open, there are consistent guidelines as far as what things look like when they're able to open. So of course, we'd like every county to open as quickly as possible. And we know that what may work for Denver may not work for Mesa County, that's already open, and other of the more rural counties. So we're pushing for letting restaurants open their dining rooms as soon as they feel safe to do so. That being said, those requirements of what those should look like, what their operations should look like once they open, really need to be clear. We believe there needs to be flexibility within that. What we're talking to attorneys who are saying that we're basically setting a new standard of care for what the new, what the new life and what going out to eat needs to look like. And the public needs to understand what they should expect. Restaurants need to understand what they should expect, but no two restaurants are the same. And what might work for one restaurant may not work at all for another restaurant. So providing flexibility. Let me give you an example. We've been hearing of single-use menus, for example. Well, asking restaurants to increase their costs in a time where they have literally no income coming in. And I'll say, on average, operators reported a 76% decline in sales when you compare early April in 2020 to early April in 2019. So now adding additional costs on top of that, which they're already having to do with masks, hand sanitizers, more frequent cleaning, so increasing the responsibilities that each staff person has to do is already making it more difficult for them. Obviously, we understand that public safety is of utmost concern, as do restaurateurs. They want to make sure that their employees and their guests are safe. So that'll continue to be a top consideration, but allowing for some flexibility where you're giving some guidelines. For example, like I mentioned, instead of the single-use menus, what about allowing for a menu board or allowing customers to open up your menu on their phone as alternatives? Those are also safe alternatives where they're not coming into additional contact with folks. Maybe the table shares one laminated menu that they can thoroughly clean after each use. So so far in the conversations we've had, both at the local level and the state level, they're very open to that flexibility with some high level but strict guidelines. And so we feel really good about that. The frustration we have right now is that the state, we believe, is close to or may already have their guidelines. They just haven't released them yet. So we're trying to push to get those released as quickly as possible, especially now that we're hearing county by county look to get a variance to be able to open restaurants sooner. I will also say that wherever we can continue the allowance of to-go alcohol and curbside pickup of alcohol has been a huge help to restaurants, just because it gives them a little bit more revenue other than what they would have previously been able to bring in. Also provisions is something we've seen a number of restaurants offer, like full loaves of bread and cartons of eggs and and whole tomatoes, whole raw chicken, that kind of thing. Just any way that not only will help the public, but help restaurants and, frankly, the cities and states be able to bring in additional revenue through those sales taxes. Again, we've been talking a lot to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and they've actually said that ordering through restaurants may actually be a safer way for the public, especially those high-risk populations, to get the food that they need because there's fewer touch points. I'll tell you, when I order takeout and delivery, when they deliver it, it's contactless. They just set the food down on my front porch, walk away. Curbside pickup, oftentimes they'll ask you what the make and model of your car is. You'll pull up in front of the restaurant and they'll put the food straight in your trunk or in your back seat. You don't ever have to come into contact with somebody. So it's really a nice alternative. So we're pushing for federal and state governments to continue to allow for that, especially as restaurants start to open up at a limited capacity. We're also looking at increasing capacity in dining areas as they open up, like increasing where your patio is, expanding your patio potentially maybe into your neighbor's front area if they're amenable to that, expanding onto your lawns, expanding into your parking lots, or frankly, even on streets. We've talked to some local officials about potentially closing streets for restaurants to be able to expand to where they can offer a better dining experience and an expanded capacity for diners. So, we're continuing those talks. We feel positive that we're hearing regulators and lawmakers listen to us at the local, state, and national level, because they really understand now that restaurants are hurting and would like to try to help wherever they can. So more to come on that, but we're pushing every day.
Those are great things. And the standard of care got to come down, and we've got to get clarification on that. I know you're working hard to get those pieces in play as well. So I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. These are great pieces. Anything else that you can think of today, Sonia?
I just encourage people to go to our website. We've opened up our communication to both members and non-members of the Restaurant Association. So any restaurateur that wants our information, I would just ask them to go to corestaurant.org. We've got lots of great resources for you. You can sign up when you click on our coronavirus page to get texts and urgent emails from us. We're sending out an email at least once a day and trying to make sure that they've got relevant information that restaurants need to know as they're looking to survive getting through this pandemic. We also, and I know that Mary has talked to you as well, we also have been giving out money to restaurant employees. Again, I would encourage folks to go on and find out how they can pass this information along to their restaurant employees on how they can get grants through this trying time. So we're again, and if there's something that folks that we're not supplying that you need, just email us, and we're happy to do the research to add the resources that we can, just to support you however we can.
And there goes the website across the bottom there. So
thank you.
You bet.
And can't thank you enough, Sonia, for your information today, and of course the National Restaurant Association. A lot of information coming across their website as well. We're all in this, as they say, we are all in this together. We're the hospitality industry. We will get through this, but it's going to continue to take a lot of effort on everyone's part. And again, thanks to Sonia Riggs for being with us and Brian Devine. That's it for our helpful moment number 38. So everybody, bye for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.